Hello, YouTube subscribers. Today or tonight, whenever you're watching us. Sorry, forgive me. I'm a little tired, a little exhausted. Ugh. But where were we? Uh, hello, YouTube subscribers. Kind of lost my train of thought. Basically, okay, here. If you're a random I don't want to say that either. Basically, if you're an old subscriber, welcome back. I appreciate all my old subscribers. Keep coming back. Keep watching each of my videos or some of my videos. That gives them joy and happiness. If you're a random person that's just dropping by one of my videos randomly, please hit that subscribe button. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, hit that dislike button. But please anyway hit that subscribe button, because who knows, you might you hit that subscribe button and I actually make a video that you may like or still not like. Who knows? Anyway, getting more further into the video. If you guys couldn't tell by the title, this is a review, a movie, Fox movie, Marvel movie review on X-Men First Class. And yes, granted, this isn't that, it's not really the very first movie and that was first released of the X-Men movies of the Fox universe. But instead of doing release order like some people are doing it, I'm gonna do it a little differently, like some other people do. I'm gonna do it how it was actually supposed to be in the X-Men, in the Fox X-Men universe, is timeline order, the correct straight timeline order. So starting off, that's actually supposed to be the first step in the Fox X-Men universe, is X-Men First Class. Now, I always jump back and forth between X-Men First Class to X-Men Origins Wolverine. If X-Men Origins Wolverine was supposed to come first or after. Every time when I kept looking at it up, doing my research, I always ended up where it came after X-Men First Class. So basically, first video of the X-Men timeline movies universe is X-Men First Class. And I'm also going to do the Fox Marvel shared universe, where I'm not just gonna do the X-Men, I'm also gonna do Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie review, Elektra movie review, if I can find that movie, because I don't even completely remember that movie. Fantastic Four. So, I'm gonna also review those movies as well as a build-up to my ultimate review of Deadpool and Wolverine / Deadpool 3. Because there's rumors that Ben Affleck's Daredevil, Elektra, maybe one of the Fantastic Four, might pop in, might not. So I just want to get the whole Fox Marvel movies universe reviewed. So I don't miss one, and if I point it out in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie review, then yeah. So anyway, on to the review of X-Men First Class. Oh. Basically, X-Men First Class is supposed to be the very first X-Men movie of the timeline. And of the X-Men timeline, that's basically really mixed up, complicated, because, which through my reviews I will explain why. Because in X-Men First Class, they reuse characters, they don't reuse characters, I feel like they just added characters and just recycle that name so they didn't accidentally, like they already did in the movie, reuse the character. And I'll explain more than that. But this is a story of explaining how Charles Xavier formed the X-Men, how Charles Xavier and Eric met each other, how Charles Xavier became crippled Professor X, and how Eric Lancher became Magneto, and basically also how Eric and Charles met Mystique, basically Raven, aka Mystique, which not just villain, but villains of the movie, the group villains of the movie is called Hellfire Club, which is very popular, and in the comics, Magneto took over the name mostly, or changed from the Hellfire Club to his own little group of kinda evilness group. But also Stranger Things use the name Hellfire Club as a reference to basically the X-Men's villains, which in the Hellfire Club in the comics is basically Kevin Bacon's character. Not really the guy with the tornado power, but not really Hazazel. But the two they actually did get right in the Hellfire Club is Emma Frost and Kevin Bacon's character. Now, I understand why they may have added two different characters that wasn't really in the Hellfire Club in the comics, which was Hazazel and the guy with the tornado power. Because which I didn't know about until I went a little bit more depth into comics. I still don't know much, but I know a little bit. That basically Mystique, which we do have in this movie as a college teenager, she looks like a college person, like the age of a college, but she acts like a teenager in this. But in the comics, Hazazel and Mystique get together, have a little love moment, and pops out a baby named Nightcrawler, as everybody nicely knows, as basically we get introduced to him into two different X-Men movies, which is X2, X-Men United, and X-Men Apocalypse. And to just know up ahead in this video, I'm definitely fucking not going to review X-Men Dark Phoenix and Legion and Gifted. Okay, granted, X-Men, X-Men, the Dark Phoenix was a terrible movie, and once I get to the review for X-Men Apocalypse, I will explain more. So, yeah, Gifted. Okay, yeah, the first season was good. It was not. It wasn't bad. Um, when I got to that point to Gifted, and I watched Gifted, the first season at least, I I changed my point of view on the X-Men and basically my motives of the X-Men. Um, Same thing with Legion. I saw the first season of Legion. I liked the first season. I liked where they were heading with it, but Gifted and Legion, I truly feel like they messed up on. They totally went off track, and basically Gifted just added too much new characters that wasn't even invented in the X-Men comics, and and just I don't know. Uh, um. I'm kind of. I'll get back to that conversation, but back to X-Men First Class. Um, but we have Jose Zoll and Mystique, as I said. Turns out in the comics had a baby, and that baby came out as Nightcrawler. So, is that true in the movies? Because we get to see Nightcrawler in X2, X-Men United, and that which would fit the perfect timeline since basically X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, 2 X-Men, and X2 until we get to Days of Future Past, where it kind of mixes the timeline just a little bit up. But what it they never really confirmed it in the movies. They didn't really confirm it outside of the movies, so it's debatable if he still is the child of Hazazel and Mystique. So and we also get introduced how Beast becomes basically blue skin, blue fur Beast. So it's basically an origin. X-Men First Class was basically an origin for everybody. Professor X, Eric, aka Magneto, Mystique, Beast, and basically who was the actual first X-Men and the correct X-Men, apparently in the X-Men universe. And it wasn't Cyclops, Storm, and Jean, as it was kind of explained, but not completely. So I guess by kind of retconning that to X-Men First Class, of this being the actual first X-Men, then sure. Would and them going against the Hellfire Club, trying to and basically everybody finding each other. Everybody have to find a way to see a point of view of, is mutants good? Are there good mutants? Or is there just bad mutants? Because obviously there's Kevin Bacon's character that's just killing people, making us trying to start World War III. So that was basically in the beginning of the movie explained as I almost said Hydra, Nazi, a Nazi person. That was part of the Nazi war, because as I guess in the movies, I don't know in the comics, but in the movies, it was explained that Eric was in the Nazi camp, and so as like in the first X-Men original movie, it showed that, but they re-showed it in X-Men First Class. I want to say with a different kid and all that. Um, uh, yeah, it was a different kid because in this, when they redid it for this one, it was just the kid and his mom. In the original X-Men movie, it was Eric as a little boy, his mom, and his dad. And they totally took his dad out of the picture in X-Men First Class. Which I don't know why, I kind of don't care. As long as they did a little bit-ish with it, then it was still good for what we got. I mean, for this movie to be basically the actual first telling of how everybody came together, how everybody met each other, how they all got along, kind of went above their differences, where basically kind of throughout the movie, Eric and Charles is bickering back and forth while being friends of who's right, who's wrong, how to do this, how to do that. Where's the middle? Where's the middle line of how the world should be with mutants? Which in X-Men First Class we get introduced to new mutant well, not really new, but like in the movie wise new, but from the comics, other mutant characters, like in the movie and the animated series, or one of the animated series of the X-Men. We get introduced to Cyclops' brother, Havoc. We get introduced to Darwin, which, okay, yes, I get it. That movie and comic has to be somewhat different from each other. And Darwin in the comics, he can basically adapt to anything. To anything. And in the movie, they killed him off in the most, I will say, in the most stupidest way ever. I get it, you needed a person to kill off to basically make everybody on the team, not really the leader, because the leader already knows what's in stake, but the rest of the team, that's basically kids, needs to learn and wants something to be, wants revenge for their friend. When reality, they didn't really needed to kill off somebody. I feel like they just felt like it. Because losing the character that they recycled the name Angel, I don't know if her character, her ability was spit out fireballs and she had like these fly wings, like 4 fly wings, and then recycled the name, and she used her stage name, which her day job was stripping, and she reused her stage name as Angel, which I felt like they just recycled that name because they didn't want to use Angel specifically again, because in X-Men The Last Stand, they brought in Angel, and I can kind of understand why, because in X-Men Origins Wolverine, they brought in Emma Frost as the sister to Wolverine's wife. I want to say wife. And then when they did X-Men First Class, like I want to say a few years after that, after X-Men Origins Wolverine, they realized, oops, we made a mistake. We used Emma Frost twice in Wolverine's origin movie, and in this. Jay. Oh well, we already did the filming. At least we didn't recycle Angel. We just recycled the name, right? Nobody would care. Anybody? So, but, at least we actually, the character they recycled the name Angel, is that I don't know if that was a brand new character they invented for the movie, or I don't know if that's a character directly from the comics. And if it is, please let me know down below in the comments, in the comment, down below, if I'm wrong and it is a character from the comics. If not, and they just made her up and recycled the name Angel. To me, I feel like if they were going to kill off Darwin, then they should not brought her in. I feel like her changing to the evil side, even though, yeah, you could kind of already tell she would have at some point of the movie by her own will if they didn't come and get the mutants and Kevin Bacon didn't. If Kevin Bacon and his group didn't come to get Emma Frost and try to recruit the other mutants, then yeah, sure, she would have left on her own. Big shock, because basically, not trying to mean, she basically pointed out red flags. I do not care. I don't want to. I hate how everybody sees me. Which, okay, yes, I get it. I mean, Ms. Deke, she nitpicked how she complained how she wasn't able to reveal herself, how she wasn't able to be herself, and how she hates her mutant power. Kind of hate Charles to a certain extent, because he doesn't have to hide his ability, but she does. But she didn't really wave too many red flags. Clearly, I feel like because they were doing a prequel and everybody already knows Mystique by the past X-Men movies, but the way Angel was the character Angel was basically nagging and in negative ways, you automatically knew she was going to the dark side, to the evil side, and I feel like that was good enough for maybe the team to try and put their goofiness aside and actually put their heads into this, where maybe they could have go to their friend and redeem them to, yes, but you gotta look at this. But also killing Darwin during the process, I felt like that was a little too much. I felt like that wasn't really needed. And yes, that was different from his character in the comics, because his comics could have basically protected himself from that. And could his movie self tried? Yes, and I truly felt like he was trying. But they just decided to be lazy and kill off one character for plot purposes, which I just, like I've been saying, was waste of time. When they just had an ally lead their ass for the evil side, for evil purposes, when they could have used that plot. Yes, that's a lazy plot too, but it was a plot that basically laid out before they killed off Darwin. other than that, Mystique going off with her problems, not being able to show her full self, like Charles, and have to hide, which basically made a strong bond between Beast and her, because Beast feels like he has to hide because of his foot hand power, his mutation, which if any of you not know Beast mutation is basically, instead of a normal foot, he has a hand for a foot, where he can just do where he can climb things. Basically, he's an ape. Being blunt about it, he is a ape. Just later on, blue. Basically, he's an ape with normal skin and just not as much hair. And then later on, he's his comic. He's another form of his comic book look. He's blue with blue fur. Thanks of him playing with Mystique's blood, because he thought with her DNA it could create a cure, and with that cure it could cure him and her. When if you actually go back, and if he actually hurt himself, it doesn't affect the ability. It only affects the appearance and form the DNA. Okay, form the DNA and the appearance. Did he not hear himself? Does not affect the ability. Forms the DNA and appearance. It turned him blue. It upgraded the DNA. Which I just realized by rewatching it today, before this review, while Mystique is doing a form of a love, not triangle, but square, a love square between her, Charles, Eric, or before Eric, I want to say, because I'm pretty sure Eric at the time after Charles saved him, when they first met / saved, he was basically still in his own head mojo. So it basically Mystique went from basically Charles, still fighting for Charles, while meeting and falling in love with Beast, going down to Eric, Magneto, straight back to her. So it's basically a square, love square that they did. And thinking about it, it's like, in the original X-Men, I can kind of understand she would jump between Professor X and Magneto. But Beast, I mean, I can get it, because Beast and his ability, but I don't. I do not know what was going through their heads. Hey, instead of a love triangle, let's do a love square. Who would be the third person? Beast. Which, how Mystique met Professor X was where she broke into his house, to get some food, and he I don't know, he heard a noise, went downstairs, and if he didn't have his power, he would have actually she would have left. But thanks to his power, he actually knew it was not his mom, because she took the form of his mom. So, she turned back to her blue mystic self, showing the young her Charles and her meeting, and basically him telling you don't have to steal anything, you can take whatever you want, you can stay here as long as you want, basically. And then jump a few years later with them, he grew up with her. Basically, they started out as friends, and it grew for him. It grew from friendship to a brother and sister relationship. For her, oh no, it didn't do that for her. For her, it was more friendship. Then she wants more. And it was pretty fucking obvious in the beginning, because she's like, would you date me? She was blunt. She's like, she was getting jealous at the bar because she would see him flirting with a girl. She gets jealous because she wants him. And once they get home from the bar, she's like, would you date me? Would you, and he was being blunt with her. I mean, he was being dumb, like not even seeing what she was trying to get to a freaking point. Or he was being the mind reading genius he was. He was being blunt because he responded, oh no, that would be so wrong, because the way I look at you is not in that way, and it just not really freaking fitting. Which after that is when she meets Beast, and that's when she fall over hills for Beast, and then straight down when Eric got out of his head and started looking at Mystique. Mystique looked back at him, and she was like, Yeah, so obviously it was clear, if you saw the other X-Men movies, she does end up with Eric, like, on his side. So of course at the end of First Class she end up leaving Charles for, even though they had a little moment of her was thinking about staying with Charles, but Charles actually Charles respected her mind space, and he promised her more than one thing, apparently. And one of those things was not reading her mind, allowing her to keep that, which she appreciated. That was one of the things she loved about him. And even though he broke that promise at the end of letting her know he would not mind if she goes with Eric, because he knew that's what she wanted. Well, even though he didn't even have to read her mind for that. Even though he at that point he finally realized that she actually loved him, and even though he still didn't feel the same way and still saw her as a sister, which how Charles meets Eric. Basically, Eric is on a FBI mission or government mission, whatever, to stop Kevin Bacon's character, and which, okay, not trying to mean it, any movie now these days Kevin Bacon is in, he is definitely the villain. Older Kevin Bacon. Oh, he's in a movie. Well, he's probably the villain, not really a good guy. So, point that off. Basically, Eric was going to kill Kevin Bacon's character, but failed. And lucky for Charles saved Eric. They met, and Charles, not really reading his mind, but in a way that's how he also saved Eric, was to get into his head and let him know that, because Eric was trying to lift a submarine that Kevin Bacon's character and his team was getting away in the water. Eric was in the water trying to lift a submarine. So that's why Charles got into his head to physically know, to let him know, let it go. We can get it. We can get him later. Unless we'll both drown. Which before Eric was going to leave, Charles talked to him saying, Shaw's got friends, Kevin Bacon's character got friends, you could do some. I've seen your past. It's a terrible thing that what he did. Revenge isn't really... And throughout the movie, you see their bond getting stronger. How they met, it wasn't really... You see Charles being like the smart kid, meeting the jock, and the jock, and quickly realize, this nerd isn't really all that bad. So let's just hang out. They play chess. You see most scenes they're playing chess, like 2 scenes. They're playing chess. They're getting the X-Men together. And you see their bond growing stronger, and how they are actually friends beyond the whole mutant saving BS. And you learn throughout, even though they have a strong friendship, and they built a strong friendship, they still butt heads through the movie that basically, to Eric, the world's not going to change. The world is going to still attack mutants no matter what. And to Charles, the world's a saint. Nobody's going to attack mutants after they learn there's good mutants. Yeah, my thought period changed on that too. Basically, by stretching all that, and Kevin Bacon is like doing a sweet ass time creating World War III between every freaking country that's around the world. So humans can take each other out, which, knowing in X2, X-Men United, there's the only way for mutants to be born is that the X gene comes from males, not really females, unless a female was born a mutant. Then yeah, but it's basically, the X gene is basically set in males, and males alone. Which Kevin Bacon's plan is flawed in a way, but it's also like, for him to rule the world in his palm of his hand, it would work for just him and his little group and the X-Men, where it would just be them. But other than that, killing off every human, it's not really foolproof, because not a whole lot of other mutants will be born. Not the future mutants, anyway. Basically, as much as I do have my negatives, where basically knowing bits and before and after learning more of each Marvel character, and come across a few X-Men characters, learning more about them in the comics, between movie and comics, I learned to try my best and split both separately, where everything from the comics can't be everything in the movie, and everything in the movie, it can't always be everything in the comics. Like Ms. Marvel. her original origin, Inhuman. She wasn't Inhuman. But now these days they changed it, where basically in the MCU she's a mutant, and the comics now she's a mutant. So they not everything stays the same. Not everything stays completely together by doing a movie version or a TV version. So, so yeah. I know this is a very long video that I made, and I'm very sorry for that, but finally done, finally over, finally got all of that out of my system. I know that wasn't a very good review, but overall the X-Men First Class movie has somewhat great CGI, not really complete good CGI. Does have a very good story plot, does have very good X-Men characters to have on the good and bad side. It would have been great to know if in the Fox X-Men Marvel universe that Mystique is the mother of Nightcrawler. But story plot wise, X-Men First Class does have a decent story plot. CGI, not completely very good, but good enough to ignore. How everybody met each other was good. I actually liked how everybody got together and met each other and bonded. Killing off a character to just make a reason for the characters to go after the villain, stupid, because they basically lost a teammate to the villains, which they could have used that story plot, even though, yeah, again, now these days it's a lazy story plot, but it's still a story plot where you could still not kill off a fucking character. Which, if I remember correctly, I think the reason why he wanted that, I think it was the actor that wanted the character killed off, because he was in the middle of doing Twilight, if I remember correctly. Or because I think he was doing X-Men First Class in the middle, while in the middle of doing New Moon. Or I think his character didn't die in wait. I don't know, I haven't watched the Twilight movies in a long time. But I think that was the reason, because the actor was doing Twilight. But still stupid reason. Still stupid part of the plot. Finding out how Charles got crippled, how Charles ended up in the wheelchair, was very cool. But, yeah. I mean, I never really questioned it. I don't know if there was anybody who did. But, if they did, they know now. And you know what? Even though I never questioned it, I probably at some point would. And you know what? Now me would be like, now I have my answer. So, drop a comment down below of what's your favorite X-Men comic, X-Men character, X-Men TV series. If it's Legion, Gifted, even though Gifted wasn't really supposed to be an X-Men show, it just got thrown together as an X-Men show. What's your favorite X-Men movie, cartoon, basically anything X-Men. Anything X-Men. Character, comic, movie, TV series, from live to cartoon, anything. Anything. Villain to hero, crossover. Um, so, have a nice day, have a nice night whenever you're watching us. Peace.